there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to try some embossed acetate today. I've done this in the past, many videos ago, and so I wanted to incorporate this into a Z-fold card design. So I'm starting off with these Kraft cardstock card bases here. Now they come with, I think there's maybe 10 in a pack, 10 cards and 10 envelopes. These are from Tonic, and I will link the links down below just in case you're interested. But I have turned the card inside out because I kind of like that darker cardstock there. And all I have done is folded the front in half and folded it backwards. So this card base measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So if it's 4 1/4 along the top, I scored it at 2 1/8 of an inch and folded it back on itself. Now, to start decorating today, I want to stamp this gorgeous big flower here. This is from the Peony Blooms stamp set here. Now this gorgeous big flower I have used so many times and I really love it. It's a good flower that I can cut down and make smaller, or I can keep it a nice big flower. Then I have this old Stampender stamp set here, which I'm using these little leaves. Now because I will be cutting these out, I didn't want to use the leaves that came in the stamp set because they were just a little too fussy for my liking. So I've stamped out the gorgeous big flower on some masking paper. This is the Gina K masking paper. It's my favorite one of all because it holds up to ink so well. And I am going to fussy cut out just the pieces that I need. So just where the leaves are going to come out either side. Now this is going to be the bit that we will be able to hide our writing behind. So that's why I wanted it to be a nice big flower. I'm stamping this onto a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch watercolor paper. This is the Tim Holtz watercolor paper, and I'm heat embossing it. So I used some VersaFine Onyx black to stamp it, and then some super fine embossing powder in clear, and that way it'll make my life a lot easier when I come to colouring this in. Now use whatever gorgeous big flowers that you have, but this stamp set has been really well loved and I've used it in so many videos now. I've popped that mask down where I wanted it to go, and then I'm just going to stamp the same flowers in the same VersaFine Onyx black ink, and I'm going to stamp one up the top and one up the bottom. And just because I wanted a little more foliage and a little more space, that's why I created a mask for the leaf as well. But never fear, I only cut out one small side there, so it's really easy and not too much fussy cutting at all. So you can kind of looks like a little bit of a mess until I take off all of the masks and it comes together. I do need to add the embossing powder to the leaves though, so that they all kind of have the same look and the card looks nice and coordinated and cohesive. So I will melt that with my heat tool, and then I will be ready to colour. I'm using fossilized amber, scattered straw and mustard seed today. I was going with the kind of yellows look, and to be honest I just really ended up using the mustard seed, which is the darker one, and the scattered straw, which is the lighter one. So I knew that I would be cutting this out, so my colouring of these flowers doesn't have to be too careful with inside the lines, except for where it comes to the leaves. So you can see I'm literally just putting the colour all over. Again, I have a few videos on my channel of the stamp set being used, so you can see how I colour this time and time again. And again, I will just reiterate that colouring is not my forte. I just do the best that I can. I come back in with the mustard seed here whilst the ink is still wet, whilst the scattered straw is still wet, and I just add in kind of a really dark solid line of the darker colour. And then what I do once I've gone around the whole flower doing that, where the kind of darker shadows would be, I come in and soften out those lines a little bit and blend it into the scattered straw a little bit more. And this is kind of my fail-proof way of colouring, but as I said, you definitely shouldn't learn off me. There are many other amazing people on YouTube that do this properly, so I just do enough to get by. I'm using Twisted Citron, Mowed Lawn and Peeled Paint for the leaves, and again there's no real rhyme or reason here. It's a little bit of a hot mess. If you just pop down some colour, no one will notice if it was meant to be that way or if you intended it to look a little different. So I just kind of add down some colour, and I think colour variation always helps with making things look better, so that's what I was going for here. I am going to pop this image aside to dry. You could definitely dry this with a heat tool as well, but I'm going to carry on with the rest of my project and let it dry. I have some window plastic here. This is the Judikins one and is embossable, and by that they mean heat embossing, not dry embossing like this. But obviously it works for both, so I'm just going to pop it in my embossing folder and run it through like I would any other piece of paper, and it gives it that gorgeous texture that really catches the light. So I love this look. It's quite subtle, but it does create a really nice extra little effect on your card. Now I'm using the Hero Arts Infinity dies here because I just want to create a really nice thin frame. Now I have been using this low-tech tape. It's the mint tape from scrapbook.com for a while now, and I bought lots of rolls of it because I love it. I bought lots of different low-tech tapes on the market. I bought ones from hardware stores. I bought more common and popular ones that are on the market, and this was definitely my favorite, so I have settled on this one. It is very, very similar to Post-it note tape, except for it has a much lower price point. So this is my favorite because it has all of those qualities that I need in a low-tech tape. I need it to be low-tech, not rip my projects, and because that is the most frustrating thing, I need it to have enough tech that it's going to hold things down and not shift, and I also need it to hold up to having inks and things on top of it. So there's lots of good qualities about this one that I like. So this is what I've settled on for now, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I have created 2 of these nice skinny frames, and I am going to glue these together. However, I am going to sandwich my acetate in between, and this will kind of cover all of those edges and things like that, and it will give the card a little bit of stability. So I'm going to use some double-sided tape. This is the really, really skinny stuff. I love this one because it is so thin. I'm just taking off all a corner of each of the edges, and that way I can line it up perfectly before I pull all of those little release tabs, just like I would line up a layer on my card base and things like that. So I have that piece of embossed acetate that is going to be sandwiched in between these 2 little skinny frames. Now I know some people do use liquid glue to glue acetate to paper and things, but honestly I find I have much more success with using double-sided tape. So just use what you have and use what you are used to. So once I have got those 2 frames down there, you can see I pull out those little release tabs and then just seal it down, and it makes it nice and easy. Then I'm going to come back to my images that we colored in earlier because I am going to cut these out. Now I like using a couple of different pairs of scissors. I really like the Tim Holtz Haberdashery scissors, and I also really like these Cutter Bee ones. I like the Tim Holtz ones because they don't have the serrated edge on them like the first ones that he bought out, but I also like these little yellow ones because they are really nice and easy to maneuver around. So those are a couple of recommendations from me. I get asked that question quite a lot because fussy cutting is either one of those things that you like or don't like. Anyway, I'm putting the card together. I did run a black marker around the outside of my fussy cut image, which helps a lot with fussy cutting. I am going to pop on my little embossed panel onto my card base now. Now I know where my flower is going to sit, so I'm just kind of lining it up underneath there, and I'm going to add a little bit of double-sided tape onto the acetate so that it will sit down nice and flush with my card. Now in a minute I'm going to need to undo this, but I kept it in the video so that you guys could see. I did add some liquid glue to the back of that white frame just around the outside, and then once I think I've got it in place where I want it, I'm going to take away those couple of pieces of double-sided tape there and make sure it is all lined up perfectly. And then just checking to see how the card is kind of functioning and making sure I've got no glue that is going to seep anywhere. I really like the design of these Z-fold cards. They stand up really nicely, and this acetate version is just another little additive that you can change it up with. So once I have got that sorted, I'm going to pop my little floral arrangement on the front there, and as I said, this will help us have somewhere to write on the inside. Now as I was kind of doing this, I thought I wanted to put a little piece of white paper there on the back, and that would again help with kind of defining the space that we would write. However, I felt like it kind of split the card in half too much. It felt like it kind of split it right down the center, and it wasn't very kind of cohesive. So you can see there I'm thinking, and this is where I decide I also want to put a little white bit behind the flower on the left hand side. So I just kind of pull apart that double-sided tape in there. Now it did rip a little bit, but obviously I'm covering it up and no one is going to see it, so that doesn't bother me. I put some liquid glue on the back of that little piece that I am shifting in there, and then this definitely helps, and I like the look of this much better. Now I'm definitely using liquid glue to pop on this back panel because just as I pop it down, I want to close it up and make sure it lines up perfectly with the panel that I have on the left hand side there. And then it needs to come to a sentiment. So for the sentiment here, I knew the couple that I wanted to use because I knew where this card was going to. Now off camera, I white heat embossed a couple of sentiment strips from the Alter New Sentiment Strips 2 stamp set, and I did 2 of them because I'm going to do something a little bit fancy here. I am going to put one on the outside, so I'm just kind of measuring it, eyeballing it a little bit, and holding it there with my hand. I am also going to pop a little bit of double-sided tape on the back of this just so that I can adhere it down. I didn't want it to go straight across the middle of the flower because I just felt like it took away from that beautiful image, so down the bottom works really well. And then I also have my second sentiment strip there, which is going to go inside the card. So I'm going to take off the release paper, line it up inside of that delicate little white frame there and make sure it is nice and even. And then to hide the second sentiment strip, so it's a little bit of a surprise when you open it up, I'm using some removable adhesive. This is my favorite one. Taking off the backing paper from the double-sided adhesive and placing it behind the first one. And I will stick it to that Kraft side there, then close the card up and stick it down, and then that way it is perfectly hidden behind the first sentiment on the front. So guys, that is my card for today. I hope that you enjoyed this one, creating a Z-fold card with the embossed acetate window on the front. Something just a little bit different, a little twist on a card design that is very popular at the moment. And all of the supplies I used in today's video, I will do my best to link some down below. Make sure that you click the subscribe button and the notification bell, which is really important. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!